August is the month when Samsung launches its flagship Note series of lineup. But with the ongoing pandemic and the overall trend in the smartphone industry, most of us had thought or even hoped that Samsung would delay the launch of its Note series of smartphones this year. However, Samsung still went on with the launch. And since its arrival, I have been using the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra as my primary phone alongside the S20 Ultra to see how much Samsung has improved over 6 months. Also, if you are planning to get the Note this year, I would strictly advise you to avoid the regular Galaxy Note 20 because of its ridiculous pricing. That's because the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is the ultimate package of the two, and Samsung is clearly luring you to buy this one instead of the regular Note 20. Anyways, let's begin with the review of the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra with its design. My first impression when holding this phone was like, wow, this is a big phone. Putting it side by side with the S20 Ultra, we can notice the trademark boxy design with sharp edges on the Note. I also found the Note 20 Ultra to be a little more comfortable and lightweight to hold, which is mainly because of its smaller battery. Here I have the Mystic Black color variant of the Note 20 Ultra, which unfortunately attracts a lot of fingerprints and smudges. So better get the matte Mystic Bronze variant instead, which is the talk of the town. So I think Samsung should be giving us more color options because frankly this black one and the grey variants look quite dark and boring. Samsung also decided to relocate the S Pen to the left on the Galaxy Note 20 series, which is mainly to cope with the internal circuitry for these massive cameras that are housed inside this giant camera bump, which by the way are thicker than the one on the S20 Ultra. Am I bothered by this new placement? Well, I don't know yet. Although it's a little bit weird at first, but after a month or two, I think you should get used to it. Moving on, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra comes with IP68 dust and water resistance as expected, but what's exciting is that this is the first phone to feature Corning's latest Gorilla Glass Victus, both at the front and at the back. Compared to the last gen Gorilla Glass 6, this promises twice more scratch resistance and it can also survive up to a 2-meter drop. But Samsung has left out the Victus on the rear camera module. So make sure you attach a good tempered glass on the rear camera module or toughen up your phone with a durable case, since repairing it in case it breaks down is going to cost you a whole lot of money. For instance, this AMOLED panel here will alone set you back for above $400. Speaking of the display, the Note 20 Ultra boasts a gigantic 6.9 inches Quad HD Dynamic AMOLED panel with up to 120Hz of refresh rate. And according to DisplayMate, this phone has the best AMOLED display ever. Well, Samsung has always been a pioneer in the smartphone display industry, and this information really does not come as a surprise to anyone. However, in real-life usage, I did not find it that different from the one on the S20 series. Note 20 Ultra has a peak brightness of 1500 nits, so visibility was never going to be any issue. Likewise, watching movies on this thing is a great experience, thanks to its loud and improved stereo speakers and a huge display. Like the S20 series, the company is still maxing out the 120Hz refresh rate to Full HD Plus resolution instead of QHD Plus. But interestingly, this panel has an LTPO backplane technology, because of which the display can adjust the refresh rate in itself depending upon the content on the screen, potentially saving battery in the process. For example, if you're watching a movie or similar content, its variable refresh rate technology will set the display to 24Hz. Or if you're scrolling through the phone or playing a handful of supported games, it will get buttery smooth at Full HD 120Hz. Similarly, the Note 20 Ultra's display can go all the way down to 10Hz refresh rate for certain static contents. The display is also home to an in-display fingerprint sensor, and it's almost similar in performance to the Galaxy S20 Ultra. By that, what I mean is that it's not as fast as, say, the OnePlus's or Oppo's, but gets the job done. But since it's an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, unlike the optical ones, it works even when your hands are wet. It's more secure, and even in a dark environment, it does not light up as bright as optical sensors do. So if you ask me, I prefer Samsung's implementation here. Time to get salty, and rightfully so. There has always been a controversy in the Samsung community as the company chooses to ship its S and Note series of smartphones with different chipsets depending upon the region. Certain markets like the US, China, and South Korea enjoy the ones with Qualcomm Snapdragon Silicon, while the rest of the world gets the one with Samsung's own Exynos brand of chipsets. And had they been some sort of equals, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But that's simply not the case. If you recall, like 4 months ago, many fans were already at the peak of frustration by the use of Exynos 990 in the Galaxy S20 series, that there was even a petition titled "Stop Selling Us Inferior Exynos Smartphones." And to see Samsung take the mistake a step further by shipping the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra in selected markets with the even more powerful Snapdragon 865 Plus, while the rest of the world is still stuck with Exynos 990, honestly is very infuriating. The Snapdragon 865 Plus pretty much thrashes its Exynos counterpart with a much better CPU and GPU performance. Looking at the benchmark scores, you can see how it has about 15 to 20% better results, and you know how much that translates to real-life usage. So it's very disappointing to find out that while you're paying a premium price for this phone, you are not getting the best performance you would expect from it. The company has been in talks with AMD to embed its RDNA-based GPU into flagship Exynos SoC, which definitely has us excited in the long run, but Samsung should have definitely done something for the disparity that currently exists. Keeping that aside for a moment, you guys might know that I use the Galaxy S20 Plus as my daily driver, so shifting to the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra was not that big of a deal, at least to me. Its performance is as solid as I'd expected, and everything runs flawlessly, including multitasking between apps or just scrolling around the phone's UI. Yet, just like the Galaxy S20 series, the Note 20 Ultra also heats up quite easy. When you're gaming for a while or you're doing some heavy tasks like multitasking, alongside navigation with full brightness, recording high-res videos for a while, etc. Gaming on the phone is decent as well, but like I said earlier, the Exynos 990 is inferior to the 865 Plus. As a result, its Mali G77 MP11 GPU cannot push certain games like PUBG Mobile to their max settings, whereas it's a piece of cake for the other variants. Likewise, games like PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, etc. do not support high refresh rate as of now to make use of the phone's smoother display panels. As of now, PUBG has introduced a smoother 90Hz support, which is exclusive to certain OnePlus phones for now, but I hope it gets a wider launch ASAP. Furthermore, the Note 20 Ultra also has ultra-wideband connectivity that we first saw in Apple's iPhone 11 series. Unlike Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or NFC, UWB operates at a very high frequency and allows for a much faster data transfer between devices. With this, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra could also be used as a digital key. Google's latest nearby shared data transfer feature, just like Apple's AirDrop, will also be much faster in UWB-enabled Galaxy devices. Now let's talk about the belle of the ball of any Galaxy Note device, the S Pen. Besides shifting it to the left, Samsung has made quite a few improvements in this year's S Pen, but the most important feature of them all is the reduced input latency. So, latency is the time it takes for your touch input to be registered by the display, processed by the phone, and then reflected back onto the display. Typically measured in milliseconds, the lesser the latency, the better it is. While the Galaxy Note 10 series had 45 milliseconds input latency, Samsung has managed to bring it down to just 9 milliseconds on the Note 20 Ultra. The minimal latency paired with a 120Hz display and Samsung's new AI laser point prediction feature, which predicts your next move depending on your current writing behavior, means this S Pen gives off an almost paper-like writing experience. I am not an artist or anything, so last year's Note 10 series fared well with me too. But if you are one, that makes all the difference in the world. Samsung has expectedly borrowed many other S Pen features from its predecessor onto the Note 20 series with some handy improvements. Now, you can also annotate PDF files, make e-signatures, etc., which is very handy. Similarly, you can also write notes in a PowerPoint file and record an audio comment on it as well, making it easy for others to drop their feedback. And since the S Pen has a gyro sensor, it has some useful or rather gimmicky air gestures that unfortunately do not work 100% of the time. For instance, the new gestures on the Note 20 lineup include a series of hand movements to navigate around the phone, take screenshots, etc. Anyways, let's quickly talk about the DeX. And if you're not aware, this is Samsung's attempt at transforming your phone into a PC. While this feature in the past required a bunch of peripherals like an HDMI adapter, it is fully wireless now. You can turn your smart TV that supports MediaTek's Miracast feature into a DeX monitor, provided that both the TV and the phone are connected to the same network. However, I did not have the best experience, to be honest. The UI is a little too sluggish to my liking, and therefore I rarely use this feature. Samsung says that it works best on its smart TVs released in 2019 or later. But I do not have one lying around, so I used a non-Samsung TV and the experience was pretty much unusable. Finally, let's talk about the cameras. It has a triple lens system at the back, which comprises of the massive 108 megapixel ISOCELL bright HM1 sensor from the S20 Ultra, a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera capable of 5 times lossless optical zoom and up to 50 times digital space zoom. There's also an additional laser autofocus sensor. We saw how the S20 Ultra failed to lock focus at close-range objects because of its physically massive sensor, especially in dimly lit environment. Thankfully, the laser autofocus system fixes that on the Note 20 Ultra. And yeah, during my test, I noticed improved autofocus on the Note 20 Ultra compared to the S20 Ultra. Even when taking pictures of subjects like dogs, they retain good focus and sharpness. The nighttime images on the Note 20 Ultra from both the primary and the wide-angle lens has also been slightly improved over the S20 Ultra, which was already incredible to begin with. The colors are slightly better, and it may be because of the improved autofocus, but it takes images in night mode a little faster. Getting to the normal daytime images, they're excellent, have good contrast in colors, exposure, and the classic Samsung vibrancy. Images from the ultra-wide-angle camera share the same story. But Samsung has worked to improve portrait images, and it shows. Here you can see how the portrait images on the Note 20 Ultra have a more balanced skin tone compared to the ones from S20 Ultra, which tends to darken certain portions while creating the bokeh effect. Moving on, selfies and portrait selfies are excellent as well, with great colors and sharpness. But once again, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra yields noticeably better images compared to the S20 Ultra when it comes to selfies in low light conditions. For the telephoto zoom lens, Samsung has stepped away from the 100 times zoom on the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, and therefore this one caps out at 50 times space zoom. It can shoot lossless images up to 5 times zoom, and their quality is quite solid, which goes on up to 10 times digital zoom. And as expected, the images from 50 times space zoom still are not that useful, although they're a little bit better than the one from S20 Ultra. Moving to the videos, there are a lot of options to play around with, just like the S20 Ultra. You can still click 8K 24fps videos, but its outcome is not that great. However, 4K 60fps videos are really good with great stabilization and color reproduction. For the best of stabilization, you can select the Super Steady mode too. I have a little complaint here, which is that the Note 20 Ultra's wide-angle sensor cannot shoot videos in 60fps, whether it be in 1080p or 4K. The front camera is a 10 megapixel sensor residing inside a small punch hole cutout in the center. It can shoot 4K 60fps videos as well, with an excellent stabilization, background exposure, and focus. Other features like slow-mo, super slow-mo, etc. work great too. Overall, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is one of the best options for mobile videography alongside the iPhone 11 series. Besides that, it is also one of the best camera phones available in the market right now. For the battery, I was a little disappointed, as I was hoping for a huge 5000 mAh battery just like on the S20 Ultra. However, Samsung has gone with a smaller 4500 mAh battery, which is mainly because of the extra space for the S Pen while maintaining a pocketable form factor. The smaller battery with a giant display that has a 120Hz refresh rate did not result in an impressive endurance that I'd hoped for. Its endurance, if I had to give points to it, would be B+, which could last you a day, but when pushing it to the extreme, you may be left with no charge at the end of the day. There's also marginal battery drainage under standby mode. I am someone who goes to sleep after charging my phone to 100%, and after 6 to 7 hours of sleep, I would wake up to only 92 or 93% charge on my phone. This issue was also persistent on the Galaxy S20 Ultra, though I am yet to see someone with the Snapdragon variant complain about the overnight battery drainage issue. Surprisingly, Samsung has abandoned the 45-watt fast charging for the Note 20 Ultra and rather sticks to a slightly slower 25-watt charging protocol instead. With this, it took me about 1 hour and 15 minutes to fully charge the phone. Wireless charging, on the other hand, is painfully slow as well, and the 15-watt power takes around 2 hours to juice up the phone. To wrap it all up, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is a solid phone which could very well be the best phone right now. It is built well, has an excellent display, cameras, and the S Pen has improved a lot in this iteration. However, getting the objectively inferior Exynos 990 on a phone for which you will have to pay over $1,000 simply does not make any sense, and we're right to complain to Samsung about it. Because of this variation, many people are skipping on Samsung flagships, and the market trend definitely reflects on that. My friend, who is a civil engineer, also was skeptical on buying the Note 20 Ultra because of the same very reason. Having said that, most people can definitely get by with the Exynos 990. And if you're someone who does not make use of the S Pen, you might as well go with the Galaxy S20 series, which by the way is enjoying some good price drop.